Hello everyone, my name is Zheng from Zhejiang University in Hangzhou, China. It's a great honor for me to share with you one of the most beautiful things originated in China, Shufa, or Chinese calligraphy. And in the last 10 years, I've been discussing Shufa with international students at Zhejiang University continuously each year. Most of them have shown great interest in Shufa, and some of them have been practicing Shufa back in their home country. Picasso once said, "If I had been born in China, I'd have become a calligrapher." Today, we are going to make a very brief introduction to Shufa and create a piece of Shufa together. No matter where you are, I hope we'll enjoy the next 1 hour together. In the first part, I'll explain a little bit about the term Shufa. Part 2 is a brief introduction to the scripts of Shufa. And in part 3, I'll show you the process of creating a piece of Shufa, and then we'll try to create a piece of Shufa together. Now, let's begin with the term Shufa. Shufa has a long history dating back to the very beginning of Chinese civilization. But outside China, especially outside Asia, not so many people know so much about it. However, since the beginning of the 20th century, scholars in both Europe and America have written about it. It's a big surprise to me when I first found different English translations for Shufa, such as Chinese calligraphy, the art of Chinese calligraphy, the art of Chinese handwriting, or Chinese handwriting, etc. In the 1990s, the term Shufa began to be used widely. Why? The reason is not hard to understand. None of these English translations really helps Western readers to understand what Shufa really is. What's more, they can be misleading to many readers if we compare Shufa with calligraphy, which is a very clear term in the English language. Any English speaker has got some idea of what it is, which refers to a visual art related to writing or the design and execution of lettering. But it can be misleading when it comes to Shufa, as Shufa is totally different from anything that is called calligraphy in any part of the world. For example, the tools and materials, the brush techniques, the cultural connotations, so on and so forth. Shufa is unique, so different from any beautiful form of lettering in many, many ways. Here, we are going to demonstrate some of the major differences as follows. The most striking difference between Shufa and calligraphy lies in the writing tool. Shufa requires the use of maobi, a soft hair brush, which is a must in Chinese Shufa, while in calligraphy, writing tools mostly have a harder tip, like a pen, a pencil, or a thin piece of bamboo strip. The amazing function of the soft hair of brush is that when one can use it in the right way, it not only demonstrates the characters and personalities of the artist or the writer, but also helps to improve his characters and personalities, so they can become a better person through Shufa practice. We all know that any form of art practice requires some skills or techniques. But Shufa is exceptionally demanding when it comes to techniques. So a lesson about 8 major brush techniques carried in the character Yong must be taught to any student of Shufa. Without a good commanding of the brush techniques, no one will become a real master. And on the other hand, a very good commanding of the techniques may help them better understand the Dao of Shufa or Shu Dao. If it's really interesting to you, I'm afraid you'll have to pay a visit to China someday in the future. Shufa originated in ancient China, but it's a treasure of mankind, especially of the East. For example, Shufa was introduced to Japan in about 600 AD, and it has been widely practiced up to today, with the term shodo, or way of writing. In Japan, shodo artists write both Chinese characters and Japanese characters to create artworks of Shufa. And some of the Japanese masters of Shufa were compared to Chinese masters too. For example, the Empress Go-myo created one of the most important copies of Wang Xizhi's calligraphy in 744. On the next slide is a detail of this copy. Shufa was first introduced to Korea during the 2nd and 3rd century AD and became popular in the 7th century. Like in Japan, some Korean masters produced works that can be compared with those of Chinese masters, such as Kim Sen in the 8th century Korea. Today, in Korea, Shufa is known as Shoye, and Korean artists of Shufa write both Chinese characters and Korean native alphabet, as is illustrated here on this slide. Now, let's take a quick look at the various scripts of Shufa. Shufa has been very popular and widely practiced in East Asia. But when did it first appear? No one can possibly answer this question. One thing for sure is that Shufa has been a major part of Chinese civilization. Probably, it can trace back to the very beginning of Chinese civilization. Let's take a close look at this inscription here. Do you also believe this inscription might be characters? Is it also Shufa? This piece of inscription was discovered in 2013 in a town called Pinghu, neighboring to the city of Hangzhou. Archaeologically, this may prove that Chinese ancestors used the characters around 5,000 years ago during the Liangzhu culture period. And there's a lot of similar findings in China. But the earliest known form of systematic Chinese writing came into existence in the Shang dynasty. Oracle bone script was an early form of Chinese characters, the earliest known form of Chinese writing, a systematic written form of great aesthetic values, constituting the earliest significant corpus of Chinese writing, which has been deemed as the oldest known member and ancestor of the Chinese family of scripts. The interesting thing is that it is not known to the world until 1899. A scholar named Wang Yirong recognized the inscriptions on the bones as characters, and after that, scholars began to collect oracle bones, and then research and oracle bone Shufa started. As you can see, there's so much to be found in China. Next, let's take a quick look at the 5 major scripts of Shufa. Li Si, the prime minister of the first emperor of Qin, on the basis of the various ancient characters, created a set of around 3,300 standardized zhuanshu, making the formal script for all of China during the Qing dynasty. The standardization of characters has a great significance in the history of China and in the history of Shufa as well. If you want to know more about that, try to read the ancient Chinese history. As we can see, writing of zhuanshu takes a lot of time. So another script, the clerical script or Li Shu, appeared and became popular and widely used during the Han Dynasty, which is not only less time-consuming, but more human as well. When we compare the lines and strokes of Li Shu with those of zhuanshu, it's easy to see the traces of the brush, and that the characters and personalities of the writers are more readable, as they enjoy more freedom in doing Li Shu. Just like Shufa comes in various scripts, Li Shu has a great many styles. Cao Shu, or cursive script, originated during the Han Dynasty through the Jing period, faster to write than other scripts, but difficult to read, and it has become increasingly popular among Shufa artists until today. Let me show you some of those early masterpieces of Cao Shu. To most of us, Kai Shu is the most readable and very popular, appearing during the Cao Wei dynasty and matured stylistically around the 7th century in the Tang dynasty. Xing Shu, also known as semi-cursive script or running script, which is sort of between Cao Shu and Kai Shu, easy to read and fast to write, and that's why it can be the most popular among both artists themselves and the viewers and collectors as well. It matured stylistically and reached the highest level during Eastern Jing dynasty, with the greatest masters ever, Wang Xizhi and his son Wang Xianzhi, known as Wan. Hey guys, welcome back. I just show you how to create a piece of Chinese Shufa. I just did a piece of cursive calligraphy, and I show you the whole process of creating a piece of Chinese Shufa. And now in the next part, we are going to do a piece of Shufa together. But before we start, we need to prepare something, or the 4 Chinese treasures. And the first thing is, of course, a piece of rice paper. As I know, there are many different types of rice paper available in the markets around. So just get any type of rice paper available to you. And the second thing is, of course, a brush, which is the most important thing in doing Chinese Shufa. And we have some big brushes and we have some small brushes. Just get whatever you can get. And the third thing is a bottle of ink. Make sure that you are getting some ink for Chinese Shufa, because the ink for pen writing is different from the ink we use for Chinese Shufa. And the last thing is an ink stone. If you cannot get an ink stone, okay, like this, if you cannot get the ink stone, you can use a small bowl or anything like ink stone, so that you can pour the ink into the ink stone, like this, okay? Of course, if it's possible, try to get a cup of Chinese green tea. When these materials are ready, we'll be ready to start. What we're going to write today is very interesting. It's not just interesting to you, to me, or to our friends. It is interesting to the whole world, to every country, to all the national leaders, because it's about world peace. In Chinese, in modern Chinese, it's 2 words, 和平. And now, I'm going to show you how to do these two Chinese characters, 和平, meaning peace, slowly. And you will be doing these two words at home as I'm showing you now.